we are back with John Sheeran, the famous John Sheeran. Yeah, we're so glad to have him here.
I'm so glad to be sandwiched between you two.
Yeah. And John is going to tell us about what he sees coming up for the Bengals against the Bills tomorrow. John.
You want a spoiler alert?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a loss.
No.
Hey.
Hold on. John.
You did not. You missed my tweet, John. You must have missed my tweet.
What did you tweet?
I expect more nuance from you. Something like it's going to be a win, for instance.
You play to win the game, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you lose because the Bills are a better team, and they're playing at home, and they look pretty good.
Right. But you cannot fight, Mr. John Sheeran. You cannot fight the stars, the cosmos. And I did a very thorough astrological analysis as to how the Bengals are going to win tomorrow. Yeah. And it's very clear.
I didn't really read all of the tweets. I read tweets that are mostly, the old Twitter length, the 120.
Yeah.
But I read some of it, and it was so complicated, I'm sure it's right.
Of course it's right.
So John, you were one of the guys who was saying Josh Allen is not going to be a good NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're playing him, and you're saying we're going to lose to him. So you're saying we are going to lose to a bad NFL quarterback? That is what I'm deducing from all of your...
Bad NFL quarterbacks can sometimes play good, especially against defenses that are absolute trash. With Josh Allen, the whole thing with him.
Yeah,
what?
Jermaine Pratt is going to get a bigger role. Are we still trash?
Yeah.
If he plays more.
The one thing to improve the defense is a third round rookie linebacker. Anyways, with Allen, like, the dude is an athletic god, and that's always been with him. He's like 6'5", 240, and he can run like a 4.8, and he can get out of the pocket and make these crazy throws. The consistency with Allen has always been the thing that will limit him from becoming a good quarterback. But as we've seen early on this season, he has a lot of command of that offense right now, an offense that isn't really filled with a lot of playmakers, but the throws that he can make from time to time are just deadly. And if he gets out of the pocket and makes plays with his feet, he can tear up this defense. And it really depends on what Buffalo wants to do on offense and how they want to utilize him.
Now, I know that it is called football, but it seems to be rather hard to make a play with your feet in this sport. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, I don't know why it's called football. I think it's why soccer is kind of a confusing name over here in America.
Yeah, they wear long socks. I believe that's why it's called soccer.
Right.
So I'm a little bit not excited. I'm a little bit concerned, shall we say, about the linebacker situation of the Cincinnati Bengals. It came up in Zach's press conference. He said that it wasn't just a linebacker. He was talking about the defense in total. And he said, we missed a lot of tackles. That's what he said. He said, we missed a lot of tackles. Now, that's true. They did miss a lot of tackles, but that wasn't the only problem that I saw. I feel like he was pinning it on one thing, but there were other problems that they need to concern themselves with. And part of it is speed. I feel like the defense is not speedy enough. We got to be speedier. Yeah, we got to be speedier. It's not just about tackles.
But who do they have? Who do they add? Why? How is this defense any different? They're still as slow as they were last year because they didn't add anybody new. What the 49ers did last week was that they really condensed all their formations into 21 and 22 personnel, where they have multiple running backs in the field. So they got the Bengals all up in the box when they only have two linebackers in the field. So you have Jesse Bates and Sean Williams playing closer to the line of scrimmage. And what did they do? They attacked us horizontally. They had a lot of lateral runs, basically beating us to the edge, 25 times a game, and they ended up with 250 rushing yards.
Exactly.
So my concern here.
But John, Devin Singletary has a bad hamstring. Go ahead.
But what about Preston Brown?
He had 14 tackles. 14
tackles in the game.
He used to play for the Bills. He knows
all of their stuff. He knows all
of that guy we signed last week from the 49ers? Imagine if we didn't have him. We would have lost by 80.
That's a good point. It's a good point. I think didn't the Bills sign someone like? I swear they signed a former Bengal like this weekend or this week.
They had McCarron, but they got rid of him. What a mistake that was.
Well, no, they traded him, so they got something for him. That was a pretty good move. But John, okay, hold on. So, who? Let me ask you something. You agree that John Ross is basically unguardable? Like he's
Yeah.
the only person who can
He's,
stop John Ross.
he's the best receiver in the NFL, easily.
No, I'm being serious. Physically, who can keep up with him on the Bills?
Well, unfortunately, Richard Sherman did last week because he got his hands on him, and that's unfortunately what Ross needs to improve upon. Like he's not a receiver who's going to win in terms of possession style and create separation with his hands. So if you have cornerbacks like Tre'Davious White, who's extremely talented in his own right, I believe they have a couple other good cornerbacks on that secondary. If they get their hands on, like he can be locked down and whatnot, but it depends on how much press they're going to play. And Tre'Davious White is their best cornerback, and that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch because they're going to keep Tyler Boyd in the slot, and the Bills don't really have a good slot cornerback. So maybe Ross slows down this week, but it all depends on how White plays.
Okay, John, 10 for 10. What does that mean to you? 10 for 10.
10 for 10?
Yeah.
Sounds like a...
Those
like
are Boyd's stats last year. 10 catches on 10 targets.
Against who?
Against against the 49ers last week.
Last year. I mean,
last
that
week.
That game did feel like a year ago.
It
took a year off my life.
That's true. But do you see what I'm saying, John? So
are you saying?
So they put, who are they going to put on Boyd if they put Trevanius whatever on Ross?
They would put their slot cornerback on him, and
he's not good.
No, so what you're saying is he's gonna be 15 for 15 this week. That's what you're saying.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. There you go.
But this offense is not as good, I think, as some people are saying it is, and it's not only because of the lack of the running game, but we've just seen in both these games after the second half, after the game script has washed up, how the 49ers and Seahawks kind of just figured this offense out, and even if you have Ross,
it didn't take long.
I think the offensive line is just only one of the issues here because obviously,
I beg to differ. I believe that saying it is one of the issues under shoots or how shall we say misses the mark, shall we say, in terms of how big of an issue it is. So, for example, let's take the Joe Mixon issue. Joe Mixon apologized for his lack of performance this week, okay? And that was nice. You can always appreciate an apology, especially from an athlete. But I don't blame Mr. Joe Mixon. I blame the offensive line for its horrid, shall we say, run blocking. I mean, how can anybody?
But let me say something.
Can anybody?
John, I read an article by a guy. He knows a lot about the offensive line, and he said John Jerry came in and played pretty well.
He did. I mean, he's John Jerry playing tackle, but it was better.
It was your article, by the way. I want to see if you remember. John does so much now. He's on like 15 different podcasts. He has his own. Did you know he has his own YouTube channel, Hodgie? Did you know that?
Wait a minute. That's illegal. We're gonna sue you, John. We're gonna sue your panther.
Why would you do this, Dadio? Why would you do this?
I just subscribed.
It's
good stuff.
Anyways.
It was pretty good stuff.
No, it's okay. Good. John, you may do whatever you like because honestly, we're just glad to have you on the show. Really.
But with Mixon, I think there is I think he is one to actually share some of this blame because I think the bad blocking in front of him is negatively impacting him as a runner in terms of how he's supposed to read blocks and whatnot. Because this offense is supposed to be a carbon copy of the Rams, right? And the Rams running game with Todd Gurley, zone blocking, and all that stuff. They're trying to do that, but they're trying to do it with a lesser version of the offensive line. So you have Mixon constantly.
Yeah. Do you think if they move the parts around, they could get the offensive line going? That's what I'm saying. You said Price was good at guard. Let's say Price comes in at guards, right?
Yeah, I think he can be a better guard than the center. I think so.
No, I know. I'm saying, do you think if they find their best five, that it can be a good offense? That's what I'm saying. Do you think they have the guys on the roster to be a decent offensive line?
It really is just a matter of them all clicking at the right time because they still need Jonah Williams to come back. He's probably their best offensive lineman right now. Then he's a first-round rookie, so that's really saying something about the rest of the group. John Miller's good. I think he's an upgrade at right guard. Trey Hopkins is pretty good at center right now, and that's something that we should have all known before this. I think Billy Price can be average at guard, but that's better than what he was at center. And obviously, Jonah Williams can be a staple at left tackle. Problem is, you still have a right tackle, and Bobby Hardy is just a complete liability. And as we've seen, even when you have talented pieces on the offensive line, if you just have one bad player, it can basically wreck everything up. But Mixon,
Exactly.
I think what we're seeing with Mixon right now is that he's just like he's there's no push in front of him, right? So he's got no space to operate behind line of scrimmage with the ball in his hands, and he's cutting runs out to the outside a lot quicker than he needs to, because as a zone runner, you need to read your gaps from outside in, and he's basically going outside way before he should, because the blocking has just been bad, and it's kind of
Exactly.
it's
But John,
negatively
it was like
impacting his style.
but it was terrible last year too.
Let me ask to our offensive line expert John Sheeran a offensive line question. Okay, have you ever had one of those candies where in the middle it has a chewy center? Now, when you suck on that candy or you chew on that candy, you always know that when you get to the center, the chewy center is going to be there. And that's my analogy for the way people have been treating the Bengals when it comes to Andy Dalton. They always know when they make it through that offensive line, which is very, shall we say, porous, they know that they're going to have the chewy center. That is to say, Andy Dalton there, because he doesn't seem to me to be moving around enough. He doesn't seem to me to be, what is the word, scrimmaging and moving out of the pocket enough. And I'm not saying that every QB needs to do that, but I feel like with the offensive line we have, we need a QB who can
we get back?
surprise.
Hodgie, please. John, listen, I want to go back to the running blocking. My question is it worse than last year when Mixon had, he led the AFC in rushing? Is he trying to do too much? What has changed? Because last year it seems like our run blocking was worse.
I like that analogy. Chewing on the candy with the chewy center.
There we go.
For me personally, I always just like bite into it immediately and broke my teeth, and I think that's why my mom started getting worried about when I was 6. That's basically what Mixon is doing right now. He's trying to make the big play immediately and not waiting for his blocks to develop, because I think the run blocking is a little bit worse than it was last year, and I don't even think the running game was so great, even though he led the AFC in rushing, because he still had bad pieces there. But even with some of these bad blocks, like you're not getting the mic, blocked in the second level, and the second level blocking has just been porous in general. And I think it's all because these new pieces are still forming around him. But he's just got to wait for those holes to develop. And unfortunately, because there's been so much negative push on that offensive line, it's just kind of negatively impacting both of those situations.
So here's the thing about Joe Mixon. I'm going to put a fact out there. I'm going to put a fact out there and just let it simmer. Let the fumes of that fact percolate through your nostrils, everybody. Joe Mixon was number 1 in the AFC last year. It isn't likely for him to decline and get worse, but it is likely for the offensive line to get worse. I'm not disagreeing with you, John. I'm not. But what I am doing is saying we can blame maybe 10% of this on poor Joe Mixon, but 90% of it goes on the offensive line, who, by the way, if they had been coached by Pollack, I'm telling you, this would have been a different offensive line, because he could bring out the juices of success from the turnips that we have, and you'd have a nice turnip juice that you could drink and be powerful with.
But this is why it's not smart to invest in 3 second-round running backs in 4 years and not do anything with the offensive line. Because if the offensive line is the issue with the run game, then what really is the value of a running back now? Because if it all depends on an offensive line, like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we paying running backs anything?
That's a good point, actually. Why? I guess because when the offensive line works, they work well. I mean, Dadio doesn't want me talking about Dalton maybe yet or at all. I don't know if I'm censored here. Please. But it's the same issue with Dalton. Dalton can look pretty darn good with the good offensive line. Now, a running back is more reliant on the offensive line because he doesn't have that option of just sending the ball away, right? But I just feel like either someone's got. I thought we got a quarterback coach as a head coach. Maybe he was going to change things up. But I just see Dalton.
It does take a couple of years. Like, you look at the best offensive lines; they weren't built in 1 year, right, John?
No, they weren't, and that's what the Rams did before they built the offensive line.
We have been investing in offensive line. We just, I don't know how you put it.
How?
I mean, we've been spending draft picks on them.
Well,
Billy Price, Williams, Bobby Hart.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No. Obwe and
oh my gosh,
Jake Fisher.
Oh my! What is Obwe up to, by the way?
So when your investments keep failing,
I know. I'm
saying, you need to keep investing.
Right.
And not worry about the running back position necessarily.
No, I don't think we should worry about the running back position at all. I think we're fine on running back. I believe Gio could do fine with a good offensive line.
Yeah, but John, let me ask you something. Why does our run play calling looks so bad? I know we can't block, but it seems like there's slow developing plays that don't make sense for our kind of offensive line, right? Like, don't you analysts, like the analytics type guys say you should set up the run by using the pass? It looks like we're forcing the run sometimes, right? And it looks like we still have like 4 yards behind the line of a scrimmage, and it takes like
What?
5 seconds for the play to
Forcing
develop.
the run. We've
No,
ran.
no. I mean, we're not catching them off guard with a run playing, with a run calling. It looks like they know when we're going to run, and then they're slow developing plays, just like they were under Marvin Lewis.
Yeah.
What is going on? Why is that?
Slow development because that's zone blocking. Like they've run inside zone, I think, the majority of their runs, and unfortunately, you have tight ends and Bobby Hart getting their face crossed off the snap. So you have the first two gaps that Mixon's supposed to read completely eviscerated, and Mixon's bouncing outside. Unfortunately, like that, this is the system that they want to run, and unfortunately, they don't have the personnel to do that right now. I've always been a proponent of spread out the formation if you want to run to take advantage of a light box. What they're doing is condensing everything up, and that works if you have a good offensive line. But unfortunately, they don't, and they can't win 7 one-on-one matchups in that condensed area.
Exactly.
So they're not too far off from getting this run game going. They need better second level blocking. They need better communication between Trey Hopkins and his guards. But at the end of the day, if you have Bobby Hart being really inconsistent, you have
You don't like Bobby Hart. I get the feeling you don't like Bobby Hart.
Nobody likes Bobby Hart. Bobby Hart was born
Bobby Hart likes
unlikable.
Bobby Hart.
Bobby was born unlikable. Let me add.
Who's that guy? No, go ahead.
Please.
Okay.
I don't know if we're talking about offense. I don't know if we're talking about defense, but I want to talk about Josh Allen. The man is not a great QB when it comes to accuracy. Can we, what's the word I'm looking for? Can we profit on that? You got your Jesse Bates the third. You got we don't have a great secondary, right? But I'm saying like maybe interceptions could be the way out of our mess that we got in last week where early on we fell behind.
I have a stat for you. Over his last 6 quarters, I think.
Yeah.
He has 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, like 68% percentage passing, which is good accuracy, and like 350 yards or something. So he's either he's growing or it's been bad competition, but I don't know. I feel like he could have a big day against us.
It's kind of weird.
Secondary is not great. Go ahead, John, please.
No, it's just kind of weird how Allen and the Bills played the Jets and Giants back-to-back weeks in the same stadium. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but I do know that against the Jets,
he's the king of New York.
He's the king of New York right now.
Yeah.
No one can touch him. And but what they tried to do against the Jets in Week 1 is that they tried no huddle with like the same 21 personnel, and it was successful in terms of moving the ball, but they only scored 3 points in the first 3 quarters. They basically dumped that playbook out in the fourth quarter and went more 11 and 12 personnel, and they ended up getting two touchdown drives to win the game. That's what they did against the Giants the next week, and Allen had a much better, more consistent game. But the key to being Josh Allen is obviously to wait for him to make mistakes because he's still young and he's still turnover prone to an extent. And like Hodgie said, he's not very accurate. So this is the game where the Bengals pass rush needs to come alive again. That's what happened against Seattle. That's why Russell Wilson wasn't as good as he can be. And Bill's offensive line isn't as good as San Francisco's offensive line. So that's their only hope to really slow him down.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Of coming alive.
That's enough.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Speaking of coming alive, I just wanted to say our Patreon site needs to come back to life. Now, I don't know. I mean, Hodgie might say it's a good thing that people are being less patronizing towards us.
That's what patronizing means. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I look at the money, it's less. So we have lost a lot of patronizing people. Partly because we haven't been doing shows. So I've realized that they expect us, when they pay us, to actually produce content. And for that reason, we're going to be making more content. So the more money rolls in. But 3 guys have been with us from the beginning through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Andrew Seiler, Ashanti Sanders.
Yes.
Ashanti Sanders. And Brian Taylor. So thank you for being patronizing towards us. And
Namaste.
Yes. And
thank you for pronouncing it right.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And if you want to, you can go to patreon.com/Smodgie. or /DH Sports and patronize us. And you can follow John on Twitter.
And may I just kind of let the fans know the kinds of things we have planned for the money. For example, we have an idea that we're kind of crazy about, which is sending a correspondent to the game to interview people live. That's one idea that we've been floating around. And that and actually, Dadio, may I reveal who that correspondent might be? That
yeah, sure.
Is it too early? Logie Baker has signed up for this.
Yeah.
And so we there's some expenses involved in this. Not a ton.
No.
But
we need to get them a hat because it gets windy.
Yeah. And so there's some ideas that we've been floating around to make the show even better than it is, which I realize is almost impossible. But believe it or not, you can always improve, you know.
Anything of Logie is an improvement.
Right, and I will say, I think
he's the mustard.
Right.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, the best way the show can improve is if the Bengals start winning, so we have more than 15 people watching our videos.
That's true. Bengals fans are a weird bunch nowadays. We used to lose and not care so much. People seem to care about winning now. You're not supposed to care. You're just supposed to complain,
Marvin Lewis, the spoiler.
Yell at the TV.
That was a great run.
Yeah, it was.
We had a great time.
You're just supposed to yell at the TV, complain, be embarrassed in public, but still be a fan. That's the way it works. It's going to be like this forever, guys. Just get used to it.
Yeah. That was pretty good. I mean,
you signed up for
big. We only lost by 30-something points. I mean, it's not like
thank God you're not a Patriots fan.
Oh man, they got it rough.
Yeah, I mean they win all the time, but you got to be a Patriots fan. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for this preview. We're going to do a recap. I don't know if John will be available. Hopefully, Hodgie will. We try to do a recap after the game.
Oh yeah.
That is all we have for this show.
Sweetie
Sweetie. Bye.
Are we still on for some reason?
Give me a second.